Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I have here Mr. Paul Rutter. We're going to get to know him and have a great conversation. So let's get this kicked off, and let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for the invitation, Kyle. I really appreciate it. As you mentioned, my name is Paul Rutter. I originally grew up in Connecticut. I'm a New Englander, born and bred. I got involved in the cruise industry right out of college, and it's actually an interesting story. I live in Florida now. I'm coming to you from Fort Lauderdale. But I come to you from the hospitality industry, the travel industry, and more specifically, the cruise industry. I've been working on board cruise ships for over 40 years now, on board some of the largest and most luxurious cruise ships in the world. And I got my start because I took my dog for a walk in Connecticut. So it's a bit of an interesting story. I grew up across the street from the high school that I went to. And so whenever I would be home, I would take the dog across the street in the high school, a beautiful German Shepherd. Got its exercise, throw the ball, running all over the high school. And so it was great. So I had graduated college, was back from college, went to Boston University, and I was home from BU. I had a summer job in the mid 70s, way before you were born.
So, not before I was born.
Well, I was trying to give you a compliment there.
I appreciate that. I am a grandpa, by the way. So.
Oh, really? God bless you.
My daughter's almost 30.
Whoa. Good
so yeah, I'm a child of the 70s.
You and me both. And they say if you can remember the 70s, you didn't really live through the 70s.
That's right. That's right.
So I was taking my dog for a walk at the high school just one October day, and the principal of the high school came out, knew me because I was involved in the music program at the school. We have a famous music program. And he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to take a year off. I have a teaching degree." Actually offered me a job at the school. I said, "No, I'm going to take a year off and do some traveling." And he looked at me and he said, "How'd you like to work on a cruise ship?" And I seriously turned around to make sure he was talking to me because I didn't, I'm in Connecticut now. And he knew somebody, a parent at the school. They were starting a new project, putting a few slot machines on some cruise ships. And he said, "I need you as a cashier. They need you to be a cashier. Somebody gives you a $10 bill, you give them $10 in quarters, not a very difficult job for a college graduate." And I said, "Sure, why not?" And a few months later, in 1976, I sailed on my very first ship, the Fairwind, TSS Fairwind, for Sitmar Cruises, not around anymore, completely gone. And that's how it started. And the gentleman I talked to, interviewed with, he said, "I need you for 3 months. Stay for 3 months. That's all. Because if you don't like it, then I'll have at least time to get somebody to replace you."
Right.
And 3 months has turned into 40 years now. I just really fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with the life and the lifestyle. I've traveled not all over the world. There's still a few places on my bucket list. But I've had a chance to work and travel through the Caribbean and the Panama Canal and Alaska, Europe. I spent 2 years in Asia sailing out of China. Just an incredible experience, and all because I took my dog for a walk that day. I just happened to run in the principal. If I didn't take my dog for a walk that day at that particular time, my life would be completely different, and you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Oh, I heard that. Well, I've always wanted to do something like that because I'm in love with the water. And I even talked to my wife because our kids are all grown up and I'm retired, and I was like, man, that might be kind of a cool job. Get on a boat and travel around the world and that kind of thing. But I guess you do have to have a love for it in order to be out there that long. But what sets you apart from everybody else in the industry?
Well, one thing about the cruise industry that a lot of people don't realize, well, let me first ask you, have you ever taken a cruise before?
I have not. My wife has, but I have not, and I want to very, very badly, especially a Kiss cruise.
Oh, yeah, lots of music cruises, lots of different types of, and we have cruises sailing out of Texas. Galveston is a big port of call for us.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things about the cruise industry that a lot of people don't realize is that we live with our customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Obviously, when your wife is on board, she's a customer of ours, and all of our guests are customers. But we don't get away from them at the end of the day. It's not like the crew is going to, paddle home at the end of the day or take a helicopter off the ship. So we live with our customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I always, when I talk to companies on land, my first question is, what if you had to live with your customers? Would you treat them any differently? What sort of policies, procedures, what sort of principles would you have in place if you had to live with your customers? So how long would it take you to answer an email? Or how long would it take you to pick up the phone or return a phone call if somebody left you a message? Because on a ship, it's not like, oh, I'll get back to them tomorrow. No, because they'll be at the front desk in an hour if you don't get back in touch with them. Right. So if somebody calls up and says, hey, listen, my toilet doesn't work in my stateroom, or my air conditioning isn't working. If it's a Friday, we're not going to say, well, we'll send somebody out on Monday for you. That's not going to work. It's going to be, no, we'll have somebody there in 30 minutes because we live with our customers and our coworkers. And so that's a very unique dynamic that a lot of people, once I explain the situation, they'll go, I never really thought of that living with your customers is such a dynamic. And if you add to that, we also live with our coworkers. So the person that I just spent 8 hours working with on the ship, when I go back to my room, they may be my roommate, or they may live right next to me, because most of the crew are 2 to a cabin, sort of like a college dorm. They all have their private bathroom and a refrigerator, TV, things like that. So it's more like a college dorm. But we all eat in the same place. There's a crew bar at night. So if we all want to go have a drink, we're all going to the same place. And so it really comes down to employee engagement and how you treat your employees. Because I always say that if you take care of your employees will take care of your customers.
Right.
And so, it's that age-old question, who comes first, the customer or your employee? Well, in our industry, and I think it should be in every industry, employees should always come first, because once you take care of them, and once they feel they're a part of your team, and once they're engaged with your company, then they, of course, will take care of your customers. You don't have to be out there every minute of every day. You have trust that you've empowered your employees to take care of the customers if they have any problems. And so that's a very unique dynamic. And it's the first question I ask: could you or your company survive if you had to live with your customers, your clients, or your coworkers?
Well, I mean, of course, yeah. If you take that attitude, which a lot of places won't. I'm not saying, I don't know that much about the cruise industry, but you'll come across businesses, it's almost like they feel like you should be feeling privileged just to come into my place, or they don't take the time to really listen to a customer when they come in. Nothing aggravates me more than when I go to a restaurant or even a fast food place and say, okay, I want to make my order, and then right in the middle of telling them what I want, they're cutting me off. They're asking me, do you want this? Do you want that? I'm like, well, if you let me finish talking, then you'll know what I want. And what I want is for you to listen to me, and I think that's probably one of the biggest problems in any industry right now, is just for the person that's working behind the counter, behind a desk, to take the time and listen to what a customer wants. I think when you cater to what a person really, really wants, then they're more apt to want to come back. They're more apt to say, hey, go to this place. Because I'll tell you straight up, I don't care how much I love a food chain. If I go and I get bad service somewhere, I will tell people, don't go there. They don't listen to what you say. They always get your order wrong. I'll give you a couple of chances, but at the same time, listen to what I'm saying. Take the time to care and make sure that my order is right. And sometimes it seems like they don't care at all. They almost poo-poo you because, well, you should feel thankful you're even in my restaurant. No, I don't know how like the cruise industry is, or even like the hotel industry. I just know what I want. So if a customer comes to you and says, "Hey, Paul, this is what I want," I mean, of course, within reason, you know, but how many reasonable people are out there nowadays? But I mean, if a person comes to you and says, "Hey, Paul, this is what I'm expecting when I go on my cruise," how much can you really cater to that? And you really, really, really go out of your way to make sure that happens?
Well, you just opened up a whole can of worms there. I can talk for an hour about everything that you talked about. So the first thing, I'll try to remember the three things you brought up. So the first thing that the pandemic has taught us is that you cannot compete on price alone. There is always going to be somebody a click away that has a cheaper price than you, a less expensive price. You know, a gas station may open up at the corner and they sell gas really cheap. And you'll go to that gas station because you're loyal to that cheap price. But if another gas station opens up across the street and they're a penny less, then many people will go to that gas station because they're loyal to the price. They're not loyal for any sort of service.
Right.
And so companies cannot compete on price alone. They have to compete on service. Customer service is the new marketing. Customer service is the new advertising. And so that's what people remember. Now, you just mentioned if you go to a restaurant, you'll tell them straight up if you're not happy about something. People go online now all the time. They're telling millions and millions of people that they were unhappy about service that they got at this one particular restaurant. And so people are much more willing to talk about a negative experience than they are about a positive experience.
True.
And so that's why the internet has exploded, really, with all of these sites where people can go and complain. I think if I remember the statistics, it's 10 times more people will complain about a negative experience than they will about a positive experience.
Of course.
And so you mentioned listening. Listening is one of those skills I talk about. I've written 2 books, might as well give myself a cheap plug. And listening is so important. I talk about it in both of those books. It's something that's called a soft skill that in the business world now, soft skills are very big. It's things that you can't learn in school. So for instance, a soft skill is communication skills, listening skills, compassion, empathy, putting yourself in somebody's shoes, when you're hearing
Right.
their problem. And so that's one of the biggest complaints that a company will find. If you tell somebody that you have a problem, let's say you bought a product and it didn't go wrong, it didn't go right, something's wrong with it, you call customer service.
Right.
And you're explaining your problem to customer service. And they can't help you. All of a sudden you say, well, can I speak to a supervisor? Okay, they get a supervisor on the line. Now you have to explain the problem all over again. You have to start at the very beginning and explain what the problem is. And this is one of the chief complaints against consumers when they're railing against a company, that there's not somebody who can listen and is empowered at the first touch. And we have that on our ship. One of our goals is to solve any problem at the first encounter. We don't want to hand them off to a supervisor. We want to empower our employees to take care of a problem right away so that our guests can go back to enjoying their cruise. We found out in the old days, when we say, let's take an example, somebody goes on like a shore excursion tour on an island. You go to the island of St. Thomas and you do a bus tour or you do a beach tour and you didn't feel you had a good time. So you go and you complain to the front desk and you say, well, the tour isn't as you explained. I really didn't like it. The bus driver was rude. In the old days, we would say, okay, let us investigate. We're going to call the bus company. We're going to find out what happened, and then we'll get back in touch with you. Well, by that time, the cruise may be over. Maybe we couldn't get them on the phone. Maybe they didn't answer their email. And so they go home mad, and then they call our home office. And then they talk about the problem again. That was the old days. Now, our frontline workers are empowered that if it's under a certain amount, if it's a $40 tour or a $50 tour, they will just refund the money. much better for us to take care of the problem right away and make that guest happy if they have a legitimate complaint about something, rather than sending them on their way and telling them we'll get back to them and tomorrow or the next day. Just take care of the problem. It costs less in the long run to empower your employees. Plus the guest is now happy. Now the guest will go in and sing your praises because you took care of a problem right away, as opposed to somebody maybe in a restaurant who wasn't listened to. Now they're going to complain to their family and their friends. And those are the recommendations we listen to. When you want, let's say, a plumber or an electrician, you're going to ask either your family, your friends, your neighbors right there, hey, do you know a good plumber? So that's where you get your recommendations from. You don't go online to a site that you don't know and start saying, oh, this guy says, who knows who wrote that review? Right. So you get trusted reviews from your friends, your family, and your neighbors. And there's even websites now of neighborhoods. There's a website called Nextdoor. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
We actually are on that.
And so are we here. And I've gotten a roofer to fix my roof from Nextdoor because my neighbors said great things about them. I listen to my neighbors. I know my neighbors. I trust my neighbors. And so that's why you need your customers to be your raving brand ambassadors. You need your customers to sing your praises, and you need your employees to sing your praises. That's why you need to empower and engage your employees, because they will also sing your praises as well.
Well, I know I'll see a commercial and it looks all pretty. It's got all the bells and whistles and everything, but knowing the service, being there, I can tell you straight up, this place, don't go there. And I'm not like most folks. If I go somewhere and I have, say like I do go to a restaurant, well, you said, I know that's been my going example, but if I go and my waiter or waitress, they go above and beyond, I'm one of these people, if you can hear my straw slurping when I'm drinking my tea, then you're not getting there quick enough. And if I have somebody that's constantly just coming by and making sure my glass is full, and whatever else my needs may be, I will get up and I'll go find the manager and say, I want to talk to you about your employee. And of course, their ears perk up as soon as you say that, but I'll tell them, you know what, you need to make sure you hold on to this person because they gave me the service that I expect when I go somewhere. If I go to, I don't care if it's just a store, if I'm getting customer service above and beyond, better believe I'm going to put that out there. In fact, I should probably do a podcast just on that alone. That kind of, like you said, next door, you get praise from your neighbors or somebody you trust, then yeah, they're going to be trustworthy. They're going to go say, hey, I want that person too. I do believe, you should give the good and the bad.
The fact that you go to the manager and praise somebody is absolutely wonderful. That is music to anybody's ears to hear good things about that. We have a saying on our ship that you need to create an exceptional experience that exceeds expectations. You cannot just meet expectations. And just like what you said, go above and beyond. You have to exceed expectations. So we have our goal on board a ship, and it should be the goal of any business on land. Our goal, as I mentioned, to create such an exceptional experience that exceeds expectations, that our guests will book their next cruise before this current cruise is over. That's our goal. Because if they put down $100 deposit, they don't have to tell us what ship they want to go on. They don't have to tell us where, when. But if we get $100 deposit, 98% of the people take their next vacation with us. So what if land-based businesses knew that 98% of the time their customers will come back to them? They don't have to go and find new customers. They get so much business from their repeat customers if they exceed their expectations each and every time. And studies show that when your customers come back, they spend more money with you each time you come back. So using your example as a restaurant, you may go to a restaurant and get a medium priced meal for the first time just because you want to see how it is. And if they do a great job, the next time you go back, you might order something a little bit more expensive. Or you might get another appetizer or a dessert because your experience was so good the first time they've built trust with you. And you now know when you go back, okay, well, that last meal was great. My expectations are that this meal is going to be great as well. And as long as they keep exceeding your expectations, then you're going to keep going back. You have no reason not to go back.
That's right. That's
and
right.
So studies show that people will spend more money if they're guaranteed of an excellent experience. And it really is all about the journey that your customers go on from the moment they think about doing business with you until the next time they come back. So for instance, how easy is it to navigate your website? Do you have your contact information? If I want to call you on the phone, does every page of your website have your phone number listed? Sometimes you have to hunt and scramble and look for a phone call just to be able to call your business. Well, that's not a good experience for me. If I want to get in touch with you, I want to be an easy experience for me. And so it starts with the moment I'm thinking of doing business with a company, and that's where it starts. It's all about what we call the customer experience, of which customer service is just one part of the customer experience.
I don't know if you deal with Facebook, but you try to find contact information for Facebook. I don't care how much you Google, you're not going to find it unless you're on something, I guess, like Twitter or whatever, which I don't partake in. But unless you have that, good Lord, trying to get a hold of somebody at Facebook is impossible. And like you said, if you don't have easy access, hey, I can email this person, I can call this person. Myself, I like calling people, but everybody, to each his own. That is very, very important. And with this episode, I think we kind of touched on customer service. I feel that it's very, very important. I hope other people out there do too. I find it fascinating because everybody can, sell you some snake oil and promise you all kinds of stuff. And that's all great. But until you actually experience it, it's kind of hard to say, okay, I trust this person. So what we're going to do is, because you do have a book, we're going to go to the next episode and talk about the book.
Okay.
Just kind of want to introduce you to everyone and kind of what you're about. And so everybody that's out there and you've been watching or you're listening, I appreciate you. If this is your first time, welcome, and I hope you'll come back. And if you're regular to the channel, thank you for being so supportive, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. So, Mr. Rutter, till the next episode.
Thank you so much. I just want to tease everybody with the name of the book. Can I just tease them with the name?
Sure, why not?
The name of the book is You Can't Make This Ship Up.
I like that play on words.
There you go. We'll talk about it the next segments. Sounds good.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network